Etan, first of all, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to you and your family. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to y'all, too.
I wanted to start on a pleasant note because we've got to talk about what we saw on Saturday. Paulie and I spent the first hour just kind of talking about our observations, what we saw. And I think the thing that, bothered me the most, and I think Paulie too, was just like the effort. They just didn't seem to have it. And Adrian Autry talked about that after the game, that it was really the first time he saw this year. But, given how important that game was, Etan, again, another trip to New York City, their last chance at a quality non-conference win, trying to get back on track. How does something like that happen in terms of just what seemed like lack of effort on Saturday?
Lord, how does it happen? I don't know. It was in the Georgetown game, you could at least say that they were giving the effort.
Right.
You know what I mean? The effort was there. It just didn't, they didn't knock down shots. This could happen, fast break, transition, different things, but it wasn't effort. When the issue is effort, I don't really know what you do as a coach. I was watching the post-game conference, and I felt bad for Coach Red. I mean, he was dejected. He didn't really know what to say. He was like, "Yeah, we're terrible. I'm going to try to hold guys accountable. I'm going to try to come up with some answers. I don't know." It's just I really didn't know what he could have possibly said with what we saw. I mean, Maryland. I'm down here in Maryland, so I've seen them play. They're good, but they're not 30 points better than us good.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not. It was just one of those games where everything was going wrong, but it was from an effort standpoint. And, there's games where the momentum can shift and another team can have it rolling and they have all the momentum and all the crowd behind them and everything like that. But it didn't really seem like that was it. It just seemed like it was just the effort, the energy just wasn't there. I don't know what you do to try to create that effort. That's just something that the players have to do themselves. I'm not sure. I was kind of at a loss like everybody else was.
We're all adjusting to this no zone thing here in Syracuse. And, I grew up in the 80s, and there was always somebody there if a guard got to the basket and to not even block shots, but there just seemed like there was someone there. What are you seeing on Syracuse's defense where there is Eddie Lampkin's not going to block your shot, but he's not there? What do you see on defense with the rim protection, even from the forwards and the centers?
Well, it's a little bit different. I mean, say when you have Jesse Edwards there and he was down there in the middle, and like you said, somebody got past one of the guards, you knew that he was there as a rim protector. And it's a little bit tough when you don't have that level of a rim protector, but then you have to work on a string. So if one person gets beat, then somebody else has to rotate over. And it's interesting because now you're hearing, a lot of the chatter being that they want us to play more zone. You know what I mean? Where before it was like we're playing zone too much. It's basically whatever's working. So winning can definitely cure whatever. If whatever is working and you're winning, then that's what everybody wants to roll with. But yeah, the synergy and the movement as far as like working on a string, there has to be something that you have to be able to get. And sometimes the fact that we do have different lineups, we do have different people, and at different times, and there's not really a lot of continuity at this point. That could be something that is kind of pointed to the reason why they look a little bit disjointed sometimes. But even with that, you know what I mean? You still got to be able to work on a string and be able to, simple basketball principles that if one man gets beat, then somebody has to rotate over and then somebody has to V back to help them. We got to turn it around. That's the bottom line. We have to turn it around.
Etan, I wanted you to get your thoughts on Kyle Cuff because, we talked about that the team by and large didn't show much effort or much fight on Saturday. And Paulie and I were kind of saying that really one of the guys who did, I thought Elijah Moore did some good things as well. But I thought Kyle Cuff came off the bench. He provided some energy, 10 points in 17 minutes. We've seen him get on the floor a little bit for loose balls. And at least it seems like he's trying. Do you think he will work his way into more minutes as things move along, or do you think Saturday was a case of nobody else was doing anything and at least he was providing energy, so Red left him out there?
He earned his minutes. he played well. He played hard and knocked down a three or two, and he earned his minutes. I don't know what's going to happen moving forward, but he definitely did earn his minutes on Saturday. I think that one of the things that when you mentioned Elijah Moore, and he knocked down a few open shots and he scored, but it can't be just the scoring.
Right. Yeah.
That is it's more of like it's more of an effort. Like if you're not knocking down shots, if the threes are not falling, if the jumpers are not falling, then you have to do something else. Then you have to be able to, be a terror on defense. You got to be able to, fast break. You got to be able to move the ball. Like we have too much athleticism out there for us not to be fast breaking at a higher pace. It was interesting. I was just having a conversation with my son about, the good old days, and we're talking about the running Rebels. And, I'm showing him clips of things like that and how they used to just get after it on defense. And then they used to just throw the ball up, and they're running teams off the floor. If they weren't worried about three-point shots not falling and then just being completely dejected if they're not falling. You know what I mean? You have to do something else. And I feel like our team, we don't have to live or die by the outside shot. And if that's not working, then we have nothing. And we have capable guys that can do a lot of other things, and we just have to be able to pull that out of them. So I think the mentality has to kind of switch, because what we saw Saturday, it can't happen. I'm not taking anything away from Maryland, but honestly, I didn't even think that they were playing that well. I've seen them play better than they played Saturday. Like if they would have played at their top, we got beat by 50. You know what I mean? So it's not going to get any easier from here, but it can't be solely on if we're making shots or not. There has to be other factors that are into play. Yeah,
Syracuse shot 50% from 3, 8 for 16, and still lost by 27 points. I actually saw your tweet earlier today about UNLV, and to this day, for me, that was the most dominant team of my lifetime. Was watching those back-to-back Final Four teams, and beating Duke by 30, and that team was very, very impressive. I do want to ask you about JJ, because we've been saying that let's see what it looks like when he comes back, right? And we don't know exactly when he's coming back yet, but anytime you take a 20-point per game scorer off the floor, it is going to look a little bit disjointed for a little bit. I guess my question to you, Etan, is how much of a difference do you think he makes moving forward, and do you think it will look a lot better? Because it's going to have to look a lot better, right? Will it look a lot better when he comes back?
Well, I don't want to put it all on his shoulders. You know what I mean?
Sure,
that's kind of a lot. He's the top scorer for the team. What he means to the team is invaluable, and what he can do in creating his own shot and knocking down. Yes, he can do all of that, but it can't be all on him. There's a lot of other improvements that we need to make. That when he does come back, those improvements have to come along with it. And a lot of those improvements are our defense. We have to be able to get some, fast break points. We have to be able to, rotate on the string. And, if somebody gets everything that everybody else is seeing, we have to improve in those areas, because if those areas don't improve, it's not going to matter when he comes back. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have, but I think that we can do it. I don't think that all is lost. I know that a lot of, the fan attendance is down, and people are projecting where it's going to be moving forward. I don't think we have to necessarily, give up on the entire season. I think they still have time to turn it around, but they're going to have to turn it around quickly.
What do you make of a player like Chris Bell? Can you make sense of how do you go from he's made 8 threes in 2 games in his career, and now he can't hit anything?
I think that Chris Bell, and I am a fan of his. I've been watching him last year, and I like how he plays. I think number one, he's in a rough spot right now, very very rough spot. The biggest slump, probably of his career that he can even recollect. I think one thing that these young cats need to do, and I will always say this, is that they need to get out of their head. They need to ignore all of social media, ignore anything that is negativity, whether it's the fans and everything like that that's coming on. Don't even look at it right now. It's going to be bad. So don't even look at it right now. Don't listen to the podcast. Don't listen to anybody talking about it. Just block it all the way out and get back to playing the way that you play. Don't rely on, if you're not making shots, that you're completely out of the game. He's too athletic and too talented to do that. You know what I mean? There are plenty of ways that he can contribute to the team if his outside shot is not falling. And he needs to be able to get into that, then everything else will kind of, pick itself up. But now pick it up on defense. Start being a leader, start talking out there, start getting the guys together, start driving hard, start getting out on fast breaks, doing all those things. And then the threes will be a little bit easier then, because you won't feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulder. And if you miss this three, then the world is going to end. And that's the level of pressure that I see him playing with now. And where, a year or two before, he played free. At least that's the way it looked, on the outside looking in. That's just my opinion.
Let me ask you another question. How hard is it if you're a player to go from maybe you were the third on the opposing team's scouting report to now with JJ hurt, you're probably one? How much does that change how you play the game also?
Well, definitely, because you're more of the focal point. So the defense is going to be, shifted towards you. So anybody with a good scouting report is going to be able to see what your tendencies are, and they're going to try to cut those off. That's just, that's part of where you are, as far as your level of importance to the team. So that's an adjustment as well. But aside from that, you know what I mean? I want to see Chris Bell playing like Chris Bell. You know what I mean? Not being, kind of hesitant, kind of, down on himself, looking over at the bench. I don't want to see that Chris Bell. I want to see him playing with the confidence that, he can play with, where, if he misses a shot, it's not the end of the world. He's going to get back on defense, and then he's going to stop the fast break. He's going to use his athleticism. He's going to make a play, show emotion and everything. I want to see that Chris Bell, and I know he can do it. So when it does happen, I'm going to be the first person cheering for him. And I know that he has it.
I got one more question about him, too. How hard is it for a player in his situation, right, to keep, you're a team, and you got to be a good teammate, but they want him to shoot. They want him to shoot 11 threes, not 4. How is that as a player to be like, well, they're not going, I got to do something else. Well, your job is to hit 3.
He shot 1 against Maryland, 0 for 1 from 3. Anyway, go ahead, Etan.
No, I understand your question. I mean, it's tough because when you're in a slump and but you can't shy away. Like, he's too good of a player to vanish, and he needs to fight his way out of it. And that's something that is difficult to do. And I'm not saying that that's an easy thing to do, especially when the whole focal point is on you. You know what I mean? When you're not shooting the ball well. I'm sure he's hearing it from the crowd during the game. You know what I mean? I know all of those things happen, but he has to block all of that out. He has to get in his extra shot. He has to pump himself up. You know what I mean? Tell himself that he knows what he can do, and he has to just go out there and have the effort. So one of the things that about Syracuse fans is that they will get excited and get behind you if they see the effort. So he has to lay it all out there. So if the shot's not falling, but he's giving it his all, he's sprinting back, he's diving on the floor, he's making plays, athletic play, doing all those things, then the crowd will get behind you a little bit more. You know what I mean? It won't be the end of the world if you miss 1 3. But he has to get past that, and it's tough. And I keep saying it, but it is tough in this social media era. I know I want to sound like the old man, get off my lawn type, but I cannot stand this social media era because I would just say all of the guys, not just Chris Bell, but all of them, just ignore all of that right now. Just turn it off. Like, don't even look at it. You know what I mean? And you just have to, and you'll dig yourself out of that, and then the tide will change. Yeah,
it is so tough. You're right. I mean, just the instant reaction that nameless, faceless people can give on social media, and it is tough. I feel for players as well. Etan, thanks so much. Great stuff as always. Again, happy holidays to you and your family. We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks. Thanks again for having me.
All right, Etan Thomas joining us here on the program. And with that, we do have to take a time out.